Above all, we must realize that no arsenal, or no weapon in the arsenals of the world, is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. Whether it is a tsunami, or whether it is a hurricane, whether it's an earthquake, when we see these great fatal and natural acts, men and women of every ethnic persuasion come together and they just want to help. Gender is not an easy conversation to have. It makes people uncomfortable, sometimes even irritable. Both men and women are resistant to talk about gender or are quick to dismiss the problems of gender, because thinking of changing the status quo is always uncomfortable. I seldom read anything that is not of a factual nature because I want to invest my time wisely in the things that will improve my life. Don't misunderstand, there is nothing wrong with reading purely for the joy of it. Novels have their place, but biographies of famous men and women contain information that can change lives. The principal goal of education in the schools should be creating men and women who are capable of doing new things, not simply repeating what other generations have done. Neither man nor woman is perfect or complete without the other. Thus, no marriage or family, no ward or stake is likely to reach its full potential until husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, men and women work together in unity of purpose, respecting and relying upon each other's strengths. Every company has two organizational structures. The formal one is written on the charts, the other is the everyday relationship of the men and women in the organization. When you fight, anger drives up testosterone in both men and women. It is our duty as men and women to proceed as though the limits of our abilities do not exist. If you're gay, that doesn't mean I want to discriminate against you, belittle or bully you, abuse or offend you. Not at all. I don't want to go back to the dark days of criminalization and the imprisonment of gay men and women, of Section 28 and legalized discrimination. You know, men and women are a lot alike in certain situations. Like when they're both on fire, they're exactly alike. As to the deceit perpetrated upon women, let it pass, for, when love is in the way, men and women as a general rule dupe each other. The history of progress is written in the blood of men and women who have dared to espouse an unpopular cause, as, for instance, the black man's right to his body, or woman's right to her soul. Now that we have a true leader who stands for family and has a loving relationship with his wife, maybe black men and women will follow their example. We have a lot of faith and trust in President Obama because his integrity thus far has shown us a new level of manhood, fatherhood and husbandhood. I was ecstatic they renamed French fries as freedom fries. Grown men and women in positions of power in the U.S. government showing themselves as idiots. God of peace, bring your peace to our violent world, peace in the hearts of all men and women and peace among the nations of the earth. Marriage is a kind of prison for anyone who's miserable in it, men and women alike, and anyone who's suffered through difficult periods in marriage dreams of escape from it. God gave me some weird, beautiful scent that makes men and women go crazy. People compare it to Carvel. It is a whale of a smell. Nothing can be more absurd than the practice that prevails in our country of men and women not following the same pursuits with all their strengths and with one mind, for thus, the state instead of being whole is reduced to half. The upward course of a nation's history is due in the long run to the soundness of heart of its average men and women. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. War is big business. It's a lot of money going to and fro, and unfortunately a lot of angst, and a lot of fear, and a lot of doubt, and eventually a lot of wonderful people, like soldiers, like men and women that are out there trying to do the best they can, they come back being wounded on many levels. The story of the human race is the story of men and women selling themselves short. The glory of justice and the majesty of law are created not just by the Constitution, nor by the courts, nor by the officers of the law, nor by the lawyers, but by the men and women who constitute our society, who are the protectors of the law as they are themselves protected by the law. There is no such thing as society, there are individual men and women, and there are families. There can be no equality or opportunity if men and women and children be not shielded in their lives from the consequences of great industrial and social processes which they cannot alter, control, or singly cope with. The silent killer of all great men and women of achievement, particularly men, I don't know why, maybe it's the testosterone, I think it's narcissism, even more than hubris. And for women, too. Narcissism is the killer. Deprived of meaningful work, men and women lose their reason for existence, they go stark, raving mad. When freedom does not have a purpose, when it does not wish to know anything about the rule of law engraved in the hearts of men and women, when it does not listen to the voice of conscience, it turns against humanity and society. Men and women must be educated, in a great degree, by the opinions and manners of the society they live in. A great city is that which has the greatest men and women. I never saw music in terms of men and women or black and white. There was just cool and uncool. Men and women are custodians of this society, and we both decide what's going to happen for our future. I feel that very, very strongly. Men and women aren't the same, and they won't be the same. That doesn't mean that they can't be treated fairly. Just as there is a wage gap between men and women in the workplace, there is a leisure gap between them at home. Most women work one shift in the office or factory and a second shift at home. There are so many men and women who hold no distinctive positions but whose contribution towards the development of society has been enormous. The first problem for all of us, men and women, is not to learn, but to unlearn. I would like to tell the young men and women before me not to lose hope and courage. Success can only come to you by courageous devotion to the task lying in front of you. I am truly free only when all human beings, men and women, are equally free. The freedom of other men, far from negating or limiting my freedom, is, on the contrary, its necessary premise and confirmation. We can't destroy the inequities between men and women until we destroy marriage. Being a law enforcement officer is one of the toughest jobs that there is, but it's also foundational to a functioning society. We rely on these brave men and women to protect and serve our country every day. Men and women have strengths that complement each other. Sometimes I wonder if men and women really suit each other. Perhaps they should live next door and just visit now and then. Scripture is filled with examples of men and women whom God used late in life, often with great impact, men and women who refused to use old age as an excuse to ignore what God wanted them to do. The unique and supreme voluptuousness of love lies in the certainty of committing evil, and men and women know from birth that in evil is found all sensual delight. Here in America we are descended in blood and in spirit from revolutionists and rebels, men and women who dare to dissent from accepted doctrine. As their heirs, may we never confuse honest dissent with disloyal subversion. Like many physical diseases, antisemitism is highly infectious, and can become endemic in certain localities and societies. Though a disease of the mind, it is by no means confined to weak, feeble, or commonplace intellects. As history sadly records, its carriers have included men and women of otherwise powerful and subtle thoughts. Gaming in general is a male thing. It isn't that gaming is designed to exclude women. Everybody who's tried to design a game to interest a large female audience has failed, and I think that has to do with the different thinking processes of men and women. When men and women are able to respect and accept their differences, then love has a chance to blossom. Poverty must be eradicated, the resources of our planet used sustainably, human rights respected, equality between men and women strengthened, HIV, AIDS and other diseases prevented, terrorism stopped, and disarmament and non-proliferation secured. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.